Thursday. In today's Facebook Live, we are going to talk about kingdom investing. And uh, it's really important. So if you want a copy of this worksheet, go ahead and type worksheet below, and one of our team will reach out to you and get you connected. Top three frustrations of this stuff is number one, it seems really complicated. Number two, we don't know the correct path to be good stewardships. And number three, it feels like it's going to take forever. What we want is clarity, velocity, and we want harvest, right? Like we want the things to work. So what I'm going to walk you through here today are 3 points. We're going to show you the architecture of wealth building. We're going to show you the thought process of it, the mindset of it, and give you some principles of design. And when you're done, you're going to have a plan and a path that will serve you for the rest of your life. It will require the minimum mental load for the maximum output. And I will tell you this, that we did a little while back, we did a massive session on entity structuring. Because wealth, you have to have entity structuring, which leads to your tax reduction. And then you have asset protection. And so you have to wrap all these things into a playbook so that you can execute. Now, I will say this also. It's really important, no matter where you are on your wealth path, that you start thinking about this. You start stretching your brain, because a challenge that us Christian entrepreneurs face is we're plugging into the wrong people, the wrong sources of influence that are really designed and optimized for the middle class. You are not middle class. You are top 2%, top 1% wealthy folk. So you need to make sure that you're plugging into the right source so that you can start to renew your mind. And the last thing I'll say is, for the Christian entrepreneur, their number one driver of wealth is always going to be their business. That's what I did. For 25 years, I've focused on business development and entrepreneurship. And the purpose of a business is to create cash that you can then redeploy into cash flow producing assets. So make sure you don't get the sequence wrapped. I see so many people who, instead of reinvesting into their business, they eat the seed, or they try to invest it and they get volatile returns, when they could take that same amount of seed, redeploy back into their business, and expedite the growth and increase the harvest. So just make sure that you have the right sequence. If you got the wrong sequence, nothing else will matter. And here's the last thing I want to leave you with before we get into this is, so if you take a look at the amount of energy that is required to get a single family home, and then you look at the amount of cash flow that comes from this thing, right? So if you're lucky, right now it's almost impossible to get cash flow the first year because interest rates are so high. But let's even say that you can get $300 a month of cash flow. Well, here's the challenge is, if you're levered, which means if you have a mortgage, then you have the requirement. Let's say this is a $200,000 house. So you have the requirement of $40K cash to get into this thing. Okay. If you're doing it free and clear, right? So this is leverage with a mortgage, and this is free and clear. Well, your cash flow will be higher. Let's say your cash flow is $1,100 a month, but you'll need to come out of pocket $200K. Okay. Now here's the point: is most people think that real estate is a great investment class, property. It is, but it is at the right point in time of your development, of your wealth path. Because here's what happens. This will go, if you have a vacancy, this will go to negative cash flow. This will go to zero cash flow. If you got a vacancy, you still have to pay the mortgage. Therefore, this thing goes from positive directly to negative. At least when you're free and clear, you have it's not negative, it's just not going to be generating you any cash. So you have to understand all of the variables and stop taking advice from people that are incentivized to sell you their product. If you talk to a turnkey real estate company, what are they going to pitch you? If you talk to a stockbroker, what are they going to pitch you? If you talk to a financial advisor, what are they going to pitch you? Always understand the source of compensation for the person that you're talking to, right? I ain't got no dog in the fight. I just want to serve you and help you and give you some of the stuff that took me years and so much pain, sweat, and toil to figure out. Okay, so let's move on. Now, in a previous session, we talked about entity structuring. So I'm not going to go too deep into that today, but I do want to try to give you a quick refresher if you hadn't had a chance to get into that training yet. Okay. And so what I want to do is get us another clean spot here that we can work in where we don't see the other stuff. Okay, that's good enough. So in a very, very, very quick, short nutshell, here's how you need to structure the entities. Because again, entity structuring leads to tax reduction, which is the foundation upon which you build your wealth, and also asset protection. So what you have, I call it the snowball or the snowman. Okay. Over here is your passive. Over here is your active. Okay. What these are down here, this bottom layer, these are your operating companies. Okay, these are the entities doing the business, interfacing with the market. Up here, this is your holding co. Now, a holding company is just an entity. There's an LLC, there's an S corp, there's an Inc. There's no designated holding co. It's a architectural structure and a definition of use of object. Okay, and then up here you have your household. So what you do is you build your business and then you distribute up to your holding company. That way you purify your optics in your business. So in business, the numbers tell you what to do. Well, most business owners treat their business as a cookie jar. Well, that's just moronic. Okay. When I used to do that, I was a moron because what that does is that confuses the optics. So you want to keep your business running clean and you want to move your distributions up to the holding company. And this works really well if you have partnerships or joint ventures, because then based on the percentage split, it just moves up to the holding co. And then from the holding co, you want to drop it into the household. Now, the reason for this is because this focuses your tax strategy into one entity. Okay. So instead of you having to worry about taxes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you focus everything into one entity because these are just roll-ups, pass-through entities. So in a nutshell, that's how that works. And then up here, you can have a family corp and pay the kids and do all sort of tax reduction things. But in a nutshell, that's what this is. Over here on the passive side, we have the same architecture. These right here hold the property, hold the syndications, hold whatever things you're invested in. And the same principle applies. You roll it up into the holding company. And then this thing is typically like a Wyoming type of an entity. So you have additional asset protection. There's charging order protection and all other things involved there. And then same kind of a thing. Okay. So again, we spent, I think, 4 hours going through all this stuff in minute levels of detail. What I want to get into today is the framework of how do we make decisions about what we invest in and when we invest. And I do want to actually move back over here to this other one for 1 second, because this is something that took me a long time to understand and is very important to understand. So you have a cadence, okay? You have a cadence of when you roll up, when you distribute from the business. And it's really important that you have clarity on when that is, because there's nothing worse than building up a business, having wealth, having throughput, but not knowing when you can spend it, not knowing what to do with it, not knowing when to set aside money for taxes, when to give. And so what we recommend is you have a quarterly cadence where once a quarter you roll up the funds and then you just take it through a decision matrix. Number one, you want to make sure that your reserves are full. You need to have business reserves, 6 months, 8 months, a year. You need to have personal reserves, 3 months, 6 months, a year. And so whenever you're harvesting from your assets, your businesses, you want to make sure that your reserve buckets are full, right? So you got some money, you make sure that the business reserves, the personal reserves, then you have surplus, right? So now you have decisions to make. And what we recommend you do is the first 10% you give to the Lord, the next 20% you set aside for taxes. Eventually, when you have the system up and running, your net tax rates will be about 20%. Now, certainly you can get them a little bit lower, but there's a trade off between what inputs you have to get them lower, right? So if you got to work 1,000 hours a year to get the things 3% lower, that's just bad stewardship. So 20% is a really good target based on the architecture. Okay, then the next tranche is so you've deployed 30%. The next batch is take 30% and go play, go enjoy, go have fun, go enjoy the fruits of your labor, do fun stuff, get fun things, right? So now you're at 60%. The next 40% you want to redeploy into the proper cash flow producing assets, which we're going to talk about next. Now, here's what's really cool is once you have all that dialed in, then you have absolute predictability because you can just go upstream and reverse engineer exactly what your business needs to produce every month. If you want to have X amount at the end of the quarter to go buy cool thing, it becomes scientific. And there's a lot of zest that comes from that clarity that happens when you just take a minute and do what the Bible says and have a plan and have a vision. Okay, so let's get over here and let's talk about investing. So you have the structure set up. You're rocking and rolling, right? And now we need to figure out. Okay, great. We got some cashola. What do we do? So what I want you to think about is there's income, there's protection, there's wealth, and you have different layers of asset types that you can invest in. 1, 2, 3. And what you need to do first and foremost is have clarity on your plan of attack. So I'm referencing some notes here so I don't get this wrong for you. You have this right here is going to be your secure, stable. You're going to look to get between an 8 to 10% return. Passive. This is the most passive, meaning you don't have to do anything. It just operates. You can go off to Tahiti for 2 years and come back. It's operating. The middle layer is, for example, like free and clear property. So free and clear property or syndications. And this gets you anywhere from 12 to 15%. You increase your leverage, but you decrease your control here. So this is kind of the middle ground of passive income. And we say that because if you're invested into a real estate syndication, for example, then every 5 years or so, there's going to be a batch of money released that you're going to have to do something with. You're going to have to make some decisions. So that decision making is not passive. And a lot of the syndications will tell you get an 18% internal rate of return. The problem is what they don't factor in is once you get the harvest, well, now you have loss of interest because you got to redeploy it. So when you factor in that, it's going to take maybe a month or 2 or 3 to figure out where to put it. Then the rate drops. So you can look at 12 to 15% there, and then the third level is 18 to 22%. And this is where you have a real estate portfolio, for example, that's leveraged, okay, with mortgage. And this is the least passive. And the reason for that is because when, for example, in a single family real estate portfolio, you will have to manage the property manager. If there's a vacancy, you're going to have to authorize them to get the thing, ready to roll. However, the nice thing is you can accelerate the return because a leveraged piece of property will produce a much higher rate of return than a paid for all in cash piece of property. However, there's more risk now. So we increase the risk a little bit, but we also increase the return, right? In the previous example, I showed you that the risk is increased because with a free and clear property, if there's a vacancy, then you don't make money. If you have a levered property and there's a vacancy, you immediately start losing money. More risk, yet more return. Okay, so these are some of the different things to think about. Now, the next thing I want to show you is the cadence of when you think about investing. And what we want you to do is we want you to be thinking about making investing decisions twice a year. And then that means you're not thinking about it all the time in between. Okay. There's no wealthy Christian entrepreneur that I know that has any sort of holdings in the stock market. There's a tip for you. If you got most of your holdings in there, you are not doing what the wealthy Christians do. And here's why: the stock market is volatile. The stock market puts you in the tail position, not the head position. The Bible teaches in Deuteronomy that we are the head and not the tail, above only, never beneath. Blessed coming in, blessed going out, blessed in the city, blessed in the country, which when you invest in the stock market, you're none of those things. However, when you invest in these type of asset classes, you are all of those things. Okay. So just there's a tip. Take it for what it is. Do with it what you want. I'm just telling you, that is an absolute principle. Okay. So when we say 2 times a year, what we're looking to do is, for example, let's say that you have a run from March to September, right? So March, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, 6 months, right? So between March and September, you grow your business, you work your tax structure, you accumulate, you roll up into your holding company. Then in September, you pause, you slow down, you look at your business, you look at your investable capital. And what's investable capital? Again, cash on hand minus any reserves that you need to top up, right? And that is your investable capital. And then of that available capital, right? You gotta move some aside for the taxes. You want to sow some, like I walked you through that. So in the previous example, we said 10% to God, 20% for taxes. You enjoy 30%, and that's 20, 30, 60. That leaves you 40%. Of that 40%, that's what we're talking about is the investable capital. So let's say that you have $100,000 that you want to deploy. Now the question becomes, where do we put it, right? Where do we allocate it? Do we put it into one? Do we put it into two? Do we put it into three? So you make that decision, and then you take a minute or two to figure out the right asset that's available, the best asset at that time. It doesn't need to be the perfect asset because these are long-term things, right? You're not looking to make your cash flow out of the property or the portfolio. Your business is producing the cash flow, which means that you can relax and just be wise and be patient. Okay. So whatever is the best available asset that you have access to at that time in this, whichever level you want to go to, boom, you put the money in and then you stop thinking about it for the next 6 months. And that's it. Right. So every quarter, we're thinking about distributing up to the holding company. And then every 6 months, we're deploying the capital. And in the meantime, there's places you can put the cash so that it's protected, that it is earning, and that's beyond the scope of this. But rest assured, it's not just sitting in a savings account. It's not sitting under your mattress. Okay. So then you deploy it and you don't worry about anything. You don't think about anything. You build your business, you build your life, you have fun. Boom. Every quarter, roll up, fill up, enjoy, deploy. Okay. So there we go. That's that. Now, so again, level one is you're decreasing your uncertainty. You're decreasing your risk. You're de-riskifying. And the way that we engineer this is this. We want to look at what is your monthly target that you would of income that you would like to have. So let's say that it's 50 grand a month. Let's say you really need 20 grand, but you want to have a little bit extra. So what we do is we reverse engineer to figure out what type of holdings at 8 to 10% would produce that within a 10-year period of time. Okay? So how much cash do I need to generate within 10 years at the rate of return between 8 and 10% to hit my annual income target? Got it? So we time box this thing for 10 years to get to target. If you can hit your target in 10 years at 8 to 10%, then the only place you put your cashola is in level 1. Done. If for some reason that you don't have enough funding to do that, then that's when you need to go up to velocitize your returns. Okay? And so benchmark number 1 is we want to do what the Bible said. The Joseph principle. 7 years, 20%. We want you to have enough coming through passive income and storehouse income that you could live for 7 years without 1 penny of income. That's the system we're building for phase 1. That's just the foundation. Okay. So then, so let's say the 50K, $15,000 of it is your paycheck. $15,000 of it is your bonus that you don't care when throughout the year that it comes in, as long as you get that in with the course of the 12 months, right? So time horizon. And then 20% or 20 grand, you want to redeploy into growth, right? So you want to redeploy that into legacy, into inflationary hedges. So, and here's a tip, y'all. The reason most people lose money in their investments is not because of the investment. It's because of them and their timing. They need the money, they need the liquidity, so they fire sale and they get out at the wrong time. Everybody does it all the time. That's the danger, another danger of the stock market. It's so liquid, you can get in, you can get out. So you're running on your emotions. Okay? The way Warren Buffett invests is he invests to buy that company and hold it forever. Most of us don't because the people we're listening to are morons. Okay? So with this, there's some level of illiquidity inherent in this architecture so that you don't make stupid decisions and shoot yourself in the foot. Okay? So so that's how we want to kind of frame that thing up. And then so you want to figure out, as you're building this thing out, you want to figure out how much deployable capital do you have today? And that's an equation of total capital minus whatever personal reserves you need, whatever business reserves you need, minus a little bit set aside for an opportunity fund. And that is the bucket of deployable capital that you have. And if you have anything less than 100 grand, you just reinvest back in your business. You should just be reinvesting back in your business until your business is at $100,000 a month. And with our frameworks and playbooks, y'all, it's like 2 people on your team. I did $130,000 a month off of 2 people. It was almost all pure profit. Okay? So this stuff doesn't take a long time if you know how to think right. And if you got the right model and the right mentor and the right mindset. So if you're pre-$100,000 a month, then just stay and reinvest. Don't put it in the market. Don't pay off debt. Paying off debt is the most retarded investment you can ever do. I'm sorry for people that believe it, but the people that teach it are talking to people that are middle class. Here's why. The stewardship return of investing into debt is you're giving energy to the thing you don't want. Number one. Number two, even at a high APR that you retire, the APR or the return on your business is going to be exponential. I'd rather you take the 10 grand instead of paying off the card, invest it into advertising and pump your business up to 100 grand a month. That's a couple months job if you have clear thinking and good work ethic. So the danger is getting the sequence wrong. Once you're up into $100,000 a month of profit, then just 2 checks and you're done. The debt's behind you. Don't be thinking about debt every month. Don't be paying off debt every month. Set it aside It's a dead season. It's a necessary ending, and focus on building your business. The Bible says build your business before you build your house. Paying off debt is a building of house thing. It's a comfort thing, right? It's a consumable thing. Debt equals household expenses. So don't put any time or energy on that until you built your business. And then when that thing's up and running, you can fix debt so fast it'll blow your socks off. Okay? So sequence, man. Sequence is everything. So you identify your total investable total available capital to invest, and then boom, you pump it into whichever level you need to pump it into. Okay? And that's it. Right? So the opportunity fund could be an investment into software of your business. It could be an investment into a mastermind, right? I've invested money into masterminds and I've gotten 10x, 20x out of that. One idea could change everything, y'all. It's incredible. It's iron sharpening iron. It's the principle of discipleship. It's the principle of mentorship. That's biblical stuff, folks, especially when you're with kingdom people who are in it for the heart of the Lord. My gosh, is that magical? It's phenomenal. It's incredible, right? So make sure that you have clarity on some of these things. And again, for goodness sakes, just stop. If you don't know what you're doing, just stop. What I did is everybody in my family hammered me. Oh, Paul, you got to be saving. Oh, Paul, you got to be saving for retirement. Oh, Paul, you got to be saving for retirement. I make more money in a day than they make in a year because of the Lord Jesus. Okay? So I learned when I was 18 years old to observe the masses and do the opposite. Observe the masses, do the opposite. The other thing, that the danger with the stock market, especially if you're using vehicles like 401ks, the government has their hand in your piggy banks. There's legislation that has been already floated that will eventually come into place because all of our government subsidized programs are basically bankrupt. So guess what they're going to have to do, y'all? They're going to have to start taxing those things. And because you put your money there, the IRS has absolute optics and visibility and x-ray vision into your stuff. Tail ship, not headship. Okay? Not what we've been called to. So tier one, easy. Tier two, that's short-term-ish syndication opportunities, sponsors, commercial, residential, apartmental, that sort of thing. And then your tier three, and again, you can get 12, 14% net internal rate of return. They'll always tell you higher, but you got opportunity costs when the capital has been paid back to you and it's just sitting there. There's also tax consequences of that. And then you have the third layer, which is your single family homes, leveraged, a little more risk, a little more return. And so what you can do then is once you have phase one done, the Joseph framework, then you have extra, and then you can velocitize it, harvest it, and bring it back down. So you can operate in level 3, because remember, 1 unit in to level 3, this is really important you understand this. 1 unit in to level 3 equals 20 out. That's what this means. 1 unit into level 1 equals 8 out. That's what this means. So you get way more yield for the same quantity of capital. So what I'm saying is once you have your foundation set, titanium, bulletproof on the foundation, then you can pop up to 3, velocitize, and just like when you're playing poker, what do? You take your winnings off the table, and now you're playing with house money. And then you harvest it, and then boom, you put it right back down to the level 1, secure, stable. You can go to Tahiti for 2 years, and you don't miss a beat. You get some more, you pop it up to 2 or 3, rev it up, harvest it up, boom, put it back down into the stable platform. That is the path to wealth, and that's what you're going to want to do. And work towards and build towards. And I promise you, it can happen so fast. I say this all the time. Jesus' first miracle was velocity, water into wine. So we as Christian entrepreneurs have access to that same anointing, that same blessing, that same covenant. But we got to do our part. We got to have wisdom, knowledge, understanding. We got to have stewardship. Stewardship is about what you do. Stewardship is also about what you don't do. Stewardship is about what you think. Stewardship is about what you ignore. And so in this framework, a lot of things you're ignoring. There's a lot of things you don't think about, and there's a sequence that you follow and that you honor. And that's what produces the results. That's what the Lord can bless. It's the parable of the talents. The dude who buried it, he got whacked. That's what you're doing when you put your money in the stock market. Just dumping it in, you're burying it, abdicating responsibility, you're the towel. The dude that multiplied it, he got 5, but he also got the dude who buried it, so he actually got more, 11, right? The kingdom rewards stewardship. The kingdom rewards the principle of the seed. You plant seed, its seed grows. One kernel of corn produces on average 2 to 3 stalks which have like 350 kernels on each stalk. One yields like 1,000, right? So major on the major things, ignore the noise, fight for clarity, have a stinking plan, sync up with some people that can help you execute it, and focus on your business. Fund your business and trust God. Don't fund it fearfully. That's a mistake I made, and I was broke when I did it. You got to go all in. Either you believe God is a good God, either you believe he's got your back, or keep your job, right? Because a job equals security, but really it doesn't, but you think it does. Or go back to a job. But if you can think big and you can just trust our daddy, who's a good daddy, then he'll give you above and beyond what you can ask or think, y'all. He'll pour it over abundant, super abundance, Zoe kind of life. Okay? Pressed down, shaken together, running over. Prove me now herewith, says the Lord, that I will open the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing you cannot contain in Malachi, the promise of the tithe and the offering. But it does not come to the fearful. And I want to encourage you, God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of self-discipline, of sound mind. There's power, there's self-discipline, there's soundness of mind, and there's love. So this is the framework and the foundation upon which you build the transference of wealth through assets, through tax reduction, and through the building of a flywheel, but also, friends, the operating manual into thinking behind how to do this. Because what good does it do if you transfer this to your kids and they don't know what they're doing, or your grandkids and they don't know what they're doing? So overlaid on top of this thing as a beautiful wrapper is this: wisdom, right? So the best thing you can do for your grandkids if you love them is master this stuff in your own life and produce fruit. So in wrapping up here, to recap, build your business before you build your house. Debt is building of the house. Debt is not business oriented. Debt is consumption oriented, home oriented. Therefore, you do that after. Build your business. To get to 100, 200,000 bucks a month, that's a few months project if you listen to the right people and do the right things. Period. That's a fact. I've done it in less than 6 months, 3 times. 0 to multiple 6 figures that fast. And I know tons of other people have as well. So it's not just a weird unicorn deal. It's a wisdom deal. And it's a mentorship deal. And it's a mindset deal. Once you build your business up, reinvest, get to that $100,000 a month mark. That way you can free yourself of all your non-business attachments, job, all that other nonsense. Then you can retire all your debt. Done. Now you can move into wealth building and you redeploy into your business and yourself, because when you get to 100 grand a month, guess what y'all gonna have to change, y'all? You're gonna have to learn some new things. You're gonna have to learn how to run a bigger business, leadership skills, how to delegate better, all those things. So focus on yourself, and then you can, with a little bit of energy, you can pump that thing up to 200 grand a month. That's one more person, one more enrollment specialist, right? So now you've taken a unit of energy and you've turned it into $100,000 a month of cash flow. That's how you play properly. Now you're in a position where you have the ability to do all this cadence every quarter, roll it up, fill up your reserves, 10% to God, 20% to taxes, 30% to play, 40% reallocate back in. Boom. Twice a year, you come back out and you look at what investable capital you have. You look at where you are on the plan. 1, 2, 3. What's my cash flow coming in from this? Okay, great. I need to pump some into 3 so I can velocitize it. I need to extract it, boom, down to 1 so I don't have to worry about it. And that's the cycle. And if you do it right, then literally you're thinking about investing twice a year and you're thinking about your money 4 times a year. All the rest, you're just focused on business, on serving the people. Okay? Proud of y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'm your friend. Let us know what we can do to help you. And if you'd like a demo on how we can help you get to that $100,000, $200,000 a month faster than you can even imagine, then I want you to post a comment under this video, demo, and one of our team will reach out and make that happen. Also, please take a minute and share with you your ahas, what you learned. If you got something negative to say, just plug it. Okay? We think about things that are good, that are pure, that are lovely, that are praiseworthy. Broke people are judgy. So just snap that thing shut. Okay? All we want is positivity. This is a community of kingdom builders. The kingdom is positive. God is light, love, peace, joy, wisdom, victory. So share your ahas, your takeaways, share anything you're inspired, share something you learned, share something you're going to change, share something you're going to do tomorrow that you wouldn't do today. And let's rock and roll, y'all. It's time. We're in a season of such acceleration. It is literally mind-boggling. I had a call today with our team, one of our leaders, and we're looking at a new application, AI-powered application that I'm not even exaggerating when I say it's basically replacing it's replacing 90% of our leadership management and accountability LMA structure of our enrollment department. Think of all the man hours. Think of all the volatility. The stuff that we can do today, man. So you got to stop plugging into the news and all the nonsense. Plug into the Lord and tune yourself to JESUS on your channel and download and execute. And your life will be you have such a bright future. It is unbelievable. I used to be so broke that I couldn't afford a $3.25 matinee 25 years ago. Went in Friday afternoon, so depressed, such frustration and anger and fear. And she's like, "Yeah, it's $3.25. You only gave me $3.18." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry." I went back out into my 20-year-old car, looked under the seats, looked in the ashtray, looked in the trunk, and I found like 3 cents. And I remember sitting there banging the steering wheel. It was a Honda Accord, thinking, Lord, warm, salty tears. There's got to be a better way. Lord, if you'll show me, I'll do it. And he did, and I have. And that's our passion here at CBI, is regardless of you that broke as me, I'm just telling you that if I could do it, you can absolutely do it. And so many of you are so much farther along, there's just no excuse. We want to raise 1,000 Christian entrepreneurs making over 100 grand a month. If you're making 200 grand a month, would you be willing to earmark 50 grand a month for a year into putting good, godly people into seats of political influence? I bet you would. If we had a governing body that would be able to pick them, that would be able to identify the pockets that we can infiltrate that are winnable, that's $600 million a year of throughput. To me, that's one of the best ways that we can secure our kids and our grandkids' future. So I appreciate you that we can come together as an army of on fire for Jesus, for kingdom, for freedom, and attack and hold our ground and harvest. Proud of y'all.